My husband Floyd and I met at the company where we worked. We fell in love and got married after an office romance. I was supposed to have happy days ahead after being blessed with a new life. However, since becoming pregnant, my husband's attitude has changed dramatically, and he started to verbally abuse me. I was going through a lot after giving birth to twins, and my husband was pushing unreasonable demands on me. Feeling helpless, I decided to seek help from a certain person. I met my current husband at a company where I used to work. He was my boss. We started dating after working together for a while, and eventually got married. When my husband got transferred, I quit my job, and that's when I found out I was pregnant.
Raising children must be tough, so I want you to stay home until things settle down.
My husband said that to me, so I took him up on his offer and became a housewife. At first, my husband was incredibly kind. Whenever I tried to carry something even slightly heavy, he would say,
"Let me carry that for you,"
and worry about me. We found out we were pregnant and we were so happy. However, those happy days didn't last very long. I started having morning sickness around the 5th week of pregnancy. Until then, I was able to do things like laundry and cleaning as usual. But as the morning sickness got worse, I started spending more time in bed and couldn't keep up with the housework.
"Hey, where's my dinner?"
"I'm sorry, I couldn't prepare it today."
"What's the matter? I came home hungry."
"I'm sorry, I can't move because of the morning sickness."
It's just morning sickness, not a disease. Make sure you prepare dinner for tomorrow,"
he muttered in a sulky tone and locked himself in his room. However, the next day when he returned home from work, he looked uneasy and apologized to me.
"I'm sorry about yesterday."
I was surprised by his sudden apology. What happened?
"Well, actually, when I complained to my boss that my wife wasn't able to prepare dinner due to her severe morning sickness, he scolded me. "Don't make light of morning sickness. Prepare your own meals." Morning sickness can be really debilitating, you know. From now on, I'll prepare my own dinner.
After this incident, on days when I was feeling unwell, he would prepare his own meals, but he wasn't very proactive in helping with the household chores. A few months later, I gave birth. We were blessed with the birth of adorable twin babies. It was my first childbirth and raising twins. I had no idea what to do and was struggling every day.
"Hey, where's my shirt? Did you iron it?"
Sorry, not yet."
"Hey, have you been slacking off with the housework lately just because you're taking care of the kids?"
During the busy morning rush, as he prepared to leave for work, my husband heard my reply and let out a deep sigh before saying,
"That wasn't my intention. You haven't done the laundry. The cleaning's not done, and the room's a mess. I'm the one working. You're the one staying at home. So take care of the house properly."
"It's not that I haven't. It's just that I've been so busy with the twins."
"Don't make excuses. Just go ahead and iron it now."
With that, he threw his shirt onto the sofa and instructed me to iron it. I wondered why I should be the one to be told this, but I persevered. "Okay," I replied and had no choice but to iron it. I'm a little confused because he's changed so much since we got married. He wasn't like this before. My own parents live far away from here, and I don't want to worry them, so I haven't talked to them about it. But my in-laws are very kind. My husband's work brought us to his hometown, so we currently live near his parents. I'll talk to them when they come over next time. After giving birth, I was looking forward to happy days. But little did I know that I would have to endure my husband's unreasonable behavior in the days ahead. Yesterday, my father-in-law, Gail, visited our house to check on us. He brought toys for the children and helped take care of them while I was doing the housework. His kindness was very helpful.
"Patricia, are you tired? Are you okay?" Take care of yourself.
When he said those comforting words to me, I couldn't help but cry. Seeing my reaction, Gail seemed to sense that something was wrong and asked,
I've noticed that you haven't looked well lately. Is something bothering you? Riley is also worried about you, Patricia.
Actually, Floyd, touched by Gail's kindness, I decided to confide in him about my husband's behavior at home. As I spoke, Gail's face became increasingly stern upon learning that my husband wasn't doing any housework or child rearing.
That idiot son of mine. I'm really sorry, Patricia. I'll talk to him myself.
Gail, thank you. So my father-in-law told me that he would tell my husband to do the housework and childcare when he got home today. And so when my husband came home from work that night, he was quite surprised to see Gail standing guard at the entrances.
Hey, what are you doing here, Dad? I have something to talk to you about. Come over here. What is it?
My father-in-law was clearly angry.
Do you do housework and take care of the children? Huh? What's with the sudden question? Just answer the question. I do. I cook and clean the bathroom. Have you changed diapers? Do you put the children to bed? Well, Patricia told me everything. Doing occasional housework doesn't cut it. Patricia takes care of the children every day and does everything else. You need to do your fair share of housework and child rearing, too. You're a father now, you know.
My husband seemed unable to say anything in response to my father-in-law's words, and just looked down. When my father-in-law asked if my husband understood what he had said, my husband reluctantly nodded without saying a word.
Patricia, I'm really sorry. If anything happens again, please let me know right away.
Gail, thank you so much. After being scolded by my father-in-law and promising to help with the housework, my husband hasn't done anything. The other night, our children were crying so much that I couldn't sleep and was desperately trying to comfort them.
Hey, the crying is too loud. I can't sleep.
I'm sorry, they won't stop crying.
I have to work tomorrow, too, and I want to sleep. Figure something out.
I was really angry and felt like saying, they're your children, too. I consulted with my father-in-law, and he gave my husband a stern talking to. But it doesn't seem like the situation has improved much. My patience has reached its limit. I packed my things and came back to my parents' house. This morning, while I was taking care of the kids and doing housework, my husband suddenly said,
When are you going to start working? Do you plan on being a housewife forever?
I didn't understand what he was saying, so I froze.
Hurry up and work. Do you plan on living off my money forever?
It seemed that my husband wants me to return to work soon and contribute financially to the household. But I thought we both agreed when I first got pregnant that I would take a break until I got settled with child rearing. We talked about that, right? I told my husband, but he responded with a puzzled expression.
Huh? We didn't talk about that. You've already given birth, so hurry up and work.
I don't understand why he's pretending like we never had that conversation. It's impossible for me to return to work while taking care of my infant twins. The children are still young, and it's impossible to work while taking care of them. My body isn't fully recovered yet either.
That's not an excuse. Pregnancy isn't an illness. My mother also worked while raising us, and everyone does it. There's no reason why you can't.
I'm not saying that I don't want to work. I'm saying that it's not realistic for me to return to work while I have infant children. I plan to return to work when they're older. I explained that I'm not fixated on being a housewife, but he didn't understand.
Hurry up and work. Don't be lazy. If you want to be a housewife, then get out of this house.
He started shouting at me, and I couldn't take it anymore. I decided to go back to my parents' house. The next morning, my husband left the house with a smile on his face, as if nothing had happened yesterday.
All right, I'm off.
I put on a smile and happily said, "Take care," as I sent him off. After that, I packed my bags, took my children, and boarded a plane. I hastily arranged last night to go to my parents' house. At first, my parents were surprised, but after seeing my condition, they kindly accepted us without saying a word. I'm so sorry for barging in so suddenly. It's okay. This is your home. Don't worry about it. Thank you. I decided to tell my parents about all the mistreatment I had received from my husband. They both looked shocked, and my mother even shed tears. I had no idea. I'm sorry I didn't notice earlier. It's okay. I didn't want to worry you both, so I kept quiet. You can stay here for as long as you need to. No matter what choices you make from now on, your father and I will be on your side. My mother held my hand and said those words. I was happy to hear them, and it gave me the courage to fight against my husband again. My husband had been pressuring me to go back to work soon after giving birth, and he didn't listen to my pleas. I had reached my limit with his behavior, so I decided to flee to my parents' house. I just got a call from my husband. As soon as I answered, he exploded.
Where the hell are you right now? You haven't even done the laundry? And what about dinner?
Can't you tell just by looking? I'm not coming back.
Huh?
I'm at my parents' house.
What? Why?
You told me to leave, so I left as you wanted.
What the hell are you talking about?
When my husband heard my words, he changed his tone from the initial outburst to a bewildered one, as if he couldn't comprehend the situation. Don't worry. The kids are with me. Now we can relax and enjoy ourselves. I could tell that my husband was getting flustered on the phone with my sarcastic comment.
No, I just said that in the heat of the moment.
Oh, so you're the kind of person who tells his wife to leave on a whim?
No, it's not like that.
Can't you take responsibility for your own words? You even complained about the noise from our kids crying. But they're your children too. Anyway, I'm not coming back. With that, I unilaterally hung up the phone. As soon as I got tough with my husband, he would get weak and upset. I wondered what had been holding me back all this time. For the time being, I told him that I would not return. But I'm still thinking about what to do in the future. And the next day, after that, my husband called me a few times. But I ignored his calls. I don't want to talk to him right now. I just contacted my in-laws. I told them about the situation, how my husband told me to leave if I became a full-time housewife, and how he pushed all the housework and childcare onto me. Patricia, I had no idea we caused you so much trouble. I'm so sorry about my son. What can I do to apologize? My mother-in-law cried as she said that. Seeing my kind in-laws cry because of a husband who caused them so much trouble only made me angrier and more frustrated.
Patricia, whatever decision you make, we're prepared to accept it. We might have spoiled our son too much. We're truly sorry.
No, I'm really grateful to you both. Gail and Riley, I don't have any resentment toward you guys at all. But I can't continue with Floyd anymore. I want to talk to Floyd directly about the future. Would you be willing to help me?
Of course, anything you need, just let us know.
Thank you very much. It's reassuring. I talked to my in-laws like this, and later on, I decided to talk face-to-face with my family at home. After coming back home, I thought about the future carefully. I decided to take a step forward, not only for me, but above all, for the future of my children. A few weeks later, the day of the discussion finally arrived. We're about to have a discussion. I'm nervous, but I'm going to express my thoughts firmly. And then, a few hours later, after the discussion, my husband left home with his parents. During our discussion today, to determine the schedule, I called my husband once. However, when he answered the phone, he weakly said,
Hey, are you not planning to come back?
I'm not. I want you to come over to my parents' house this Sunday so we can discuss the future.
Why the hell are we at your parents' house? Why don't you just come over here?
You don't understand how difficult it is to take the kids on transportation, do you? Anyway, I have already talked to your parents. So you must come.
Hey.
Perhaps because I decided to talk with him a little too forcefully, my husband came to my parents' house that day with a grumpy look on his face. Thank you for coming, Gail, Riley.
Patricia, I'm sorry for what our son did.
I'm really sorry, Patricia.
What the hell? Now even my parents? Shut up, first of all. Apologize. I didn't do anything.
Are you saying you didn't do anything? Even at this point, my husband still won't admit his mistake. My husband lifted his head as if he had been struck by my words and glared at me.
You left on your own, didn't you?
That's because you told me to leave.
Try to imagine coming back to a house where there's no cleaning or laundry done. I work hard too, you know.
If you think that way, why don't you do the cleaning and laundry yourself? As I said that, my husband gave me a look, as if he was looking down on me.
Housework and childcare are a wife's job. You're a stay-at-home wife after all. Who do you think is paying for our livelihood?
I was getting irritated by my husband's words and was about to say something back. Then my father-in-law stood up faster than me, stared at my husband, and said strongly,
Shut up already. Who do you think Patricia is?
He shouted loudly. My husband was stunned by the sudden anger, and I was surprised too. My mother-in-law was sitting next to my father-in-law with tears in her eyes.
What, Dad? Whether she's a housewife or whatever, husbands and wives are equal. When you were young, your mom and I shared household chores and child rearing. That's what a normal couple does. You're wrong. What?
I'm so embarrassed and ashamed that I can't even look at Patricia. Upon seeing his mother crying and shrinking in front of him, Floyd seemed to realize things were getting serious and became frustrated. If that's really what you think, then it's over. Floyd, let's get a divorce. I've said this and slammed the divorce papers in front of him. And I will make sure you pay child support properly.
Well, what are you talking about?
I have no intention of becoming your maid.
Wait a minute. I won't be here. You can't raise the twins alone.
Don't worry about me. My mother is here, and it's much better than being with you. I don't have any desire to be with you anymore, so let's get a divorce. When I presented the divorce papers to my husband again, he seemed shocked to be told by his scorned wife that he was getting divorced and couldn't say anything.
Patricia, I'm really sorry. We'll leave with our son today.
Yes, please take care of the divorce papers. I understand, don't worry. I'll make sure he signs them. My in-laws said that and forcibly pushed their stunned son into the car and left the house. I realized that what my husband wanted from me was someone who would take care of the housework and child rearing, and that's not what being a couple is about. So, for now, I plan to proceed with the divorce and think about my future job prospects at my parents' house. During the discussion, my children were being taken care of by their grandmother. Although it seems they could hear their grandfathers yelling, my twins were sleeping well. They seem like they will grow up to be great people in the future. And then a few days later, finally the divorce papers with my husband's signature arrived. It's finally happening. And just now I received a call from my father-in-law. Apparently there was a commotion when they were trying to get my husband to sign the papers. I asked for more details, and it turns out that they surrounded him with relatives and pressured him into signing. At first my husband refused, but eventually he had no choice when he was being pressured from all sides. Lately at work, my husband has been wearing wrinkled shirts and has been lacking energy, so rumors started spreading that we were getting a divorce and that I had left him. Did his wife run away? Rumors started spreading, and it seemed he quickly became isolated from his surroundings. My husband's former boss scolded him before and apparently said some harsh words like,
Someone who can't prioritize their family can't prioritize customers either. Reflect on that.
After that, it became uncomfortable for him to work at the company. However, he had no choice but to continue working to pay for child support and rent. He hasn't changed jobs and is somehow doing his best. Since then, my husband has found himself unable to do the housework and is complaining that if only I were here. But he totally deserves it. I have no intention of seeing him again, and I have no intention of letting my children see him either. Now that I'm away from him, I feel like I have more emotional space. I want to protect my children and make sure they continue to grow up healthy. From now on, the three of us will do our best together. I suffered from my husband's unreasonable behavior, but with the help of my in-laws and people around me, I thought for myself. gathered the courage to take action, and was able to overcome this adversity.
All right, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children. With zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job. Having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! What's wrong? Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I immediately followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong. Mike! What have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. I didn't do anything wrong. You're still saying that? Look at him. Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract? Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go. Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him. There's no way he was pushed aside. Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he? I don't remember that part. I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.